Hey everybody, Brooke Cashin with Allen Tate Realtors, and I am fortunate to be here today with Bob Leake, who is the Executive Director of Winston-Salem Business Inc. Some of you guys may have heard of it called WSB. That's what it goes by occasionally.
Among other things.
Yeah, I was going to say all positive. I'd just like to ask you a couple of questions today. There's a lot going on in Winston. Winston's getting a lot of press, good press, nationally. So first of all, let's start talking about just economic development in our community, the greater Winston area, which you're primarily responsible for. Do you feel like we have a holistic approach to economic development? Meaning, do we bring the full power of the community, not just the business, community, but also we talked a little bit earlier about quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
So talk a little bit about the holistic approach that we may or may not have as you're helping other businesses to relocate to grow here.
Sure. No, that's a key point I think in business recruiting is when a company comes in and they're not familiar with your community, they want to see all the players at the table.
Sure.
And I'm a paid salesperson for the community, and so I'm telling them things about quality of life and buildings and labor, and I'm paid to tell them that. They really like to see at the table, business leaders and others in their industry, or at least in the business field. They want to see and hear from elected officials about their vision for the community, where it's going. They read the press before they get here. They look online before they get here, and so usually companies we work with have a pretty good understanding of what's going on in the community. Your question about the holistic approach, I would say we absolutely have a holistic approach to economic development in this community. We have, at any given time at the table, elected officials, business leaders, folks that are just in industry, as well as the paid professionals, working collaboratively to try to make the deal. And what's really unique is we do it in more than just Winston-Salem. We do it throughout the triad because we've worked with our friends in Greensboro and High Point and others to make sure that we are telling the story about this whole community, not just small pieces of it.
Right, and is it still true that if we combined Winston, Greensboro, and High Point and we were a metro area that we'd still be like maybe the 11th largest in the nation? Has that number changed?
I don't know what all the numbers are. I do know that we would be number 2 in the state, slightly behind the greater Charlotte area, and we would have about 1.8 million people as part of our region. And that was why we were able to submit on the Amazon headquarters deals, because they wanted a minimum of 1 million people, and combined, obviously, we exceed that substantially.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we may not have gotten the headquarters, but we've definitely succeeded in some of the distribution sites for Amazon and others that have looked at this area. Can you speak to any of that and how this area is attractive to especially the logistics folks?
Yeah, I can't speak to that specific project because I didn't have anything to do with it. It's a Greensboro project because it's technically in Guilford County. We have long touted this region as kind of the distribution area for North Carolina because we've got 5 interstate highways that traverse this region. Only one of 3 in the country.
Wow.
We've got 5 interstates. We've got access to 4 ports within about 5 hours of here. So you can go to Norfolk, you can go to the 2 in North Carolina, pick up Charleston and Savannah, and even further you can go to Baltimore and Jacksonville. So getting to the ports, if you're into international trade, is very, very easy from here. And logistically, it just makes it easier to commute within the communities.
Absolutely.
That 1.8 million people, if you're a single city, like a Charlotte or a Raleigh, everybody's trying to get in at one time and leave at one time. Here, we have 50,000 or so cross commuters every day going to Guilford County and coming in from Guilford County.
Hey, we're one of those.
And a few from other counties in and out as well. And so logistically, we are an easy place to travel and an easy place to do business.
And I agree with you. So you're a salesperson for the community. I'm a salesperson for the community. I like to think of us both as ambassadors for that. So if I'm sitting on an airplane and I'm coming back from DC and I've got a delay, what can I share with someone? What would you have us as realtors or as on our side of the table share with someone if they were thinking about doing business in Winston-Salem or the greater Triad area?
My business card.
Well, that's a good one. Right after I share mine.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a great question. And unfortunately, drivers are different for every project. What I would talk about is kind of the energy that has gone through this community in the last dozen years or so. I would talk about the education system throughout the Triad and the state. Wake Forest and Winston-Salem State and Guilford and Elon and High Point University as part of the UNC system and what it does for the state. I would talk about the quality of life. I would talk about access, meaning you can be at the beach in 4 hours, the mountains in an hour. You've got access to Pinehurst. You can fish. You can see pro sports in Charlotte. Sure. I mean, I would talk about that. I would talk a lot about cost of doing business. As a market, and I'm talking about the whole triad market, we are well below the national average on
Right.
most cost measures. And so when you're looking to buy a house, you're looking to rent office space, you're looking to hire people, you're looking to buy goods, you're going to pay less on average than a lot of other metropolitan areas in the country, which means your paycheck has much greater buying
That's
power.
right.
And as a company, you can pay your people a fair wage, but maybe less than you would have to pay in an urban market like Atlanta or
Wow, yeah.
a DC or New York or Dallas or something like that. Then in terms of just growth, I would talk about kinds of businesses that are booming here, the medical industry, the technology industry, and innovation quarter. I would talk about our history in tobacco, textiles, and furniture, and how we've leveraged that now into more of an advanced manufacturing community. And I would then continue the dialogue based on things that they'd like to talk about. But those are some of the underlying things we talk about just about every time we talk to somebody.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. Lots of good information, and we'll look forward to see what Winston and the Triad has on the horizon.
Great. Well, I appreciate your interest.
Thanks.